Hi everyone, I'm Annie. Welcome to this Google Digital Garage training session today. And today we're talking about building a CV and writing a cover letter. So as I mentioned, I'm Annie, one of Google's free digital skills trainers. And as we go through today, and we are not alone, we're very fortunate to be accompanied by a fellow coach and trainer who is Alison. Now you'll be able to recognise Alison by her name and also by the blue spanner that you'll see in the chat box. Now, we do really encourage you to talk to us because that's the way we can best deliver support for you. So the way that you can do that is quickly sign in to YouTube. It would take just a moment. If there's any problems in seeing or hearing me today, a quick refresh can often iron out any of those. Now, this session is a part of a bigger initiative, which is through Grow with Google, and you'll be able to see the link just below, which points you to other sessions that may be of value to you. There is also a certificate, which I'll talk about later in the programme, that is on there as well that could be of interest. Now, today we're going to talk about the CV and cover letter. So you might want to know a little bit about my background as regards that. So I have been in marketing for most of my career. I've also had my own business. So I know the highs and lows of having an online business and what's required. And I've also hired and recruited for many, many people over the years. So hopefully that will give you a bit of an idea of where we go with this today. And I can give you a bit of insights as well. So without further ado, we're going to now look at building that CV and cover letter together. So there's actually 3 stages to doing that. And the first is actually building the CV up from the beginning and making that nice and clear so that the audience that pick it up, the HR professionals or the owners or hiring managers, see it and really recognize it and pay attention to it as they go. The next thing we're going to do is look at writing a cover letter. Now, this is something that is quite important. We'll look at why throughout the session. And this is how we can express ourselves beyond what the CV shows. So a bit more about who we are as people. And finally, we're going to get you ready for that job search and look at the tools, the trends, the things that are happening out there at the moment in the world of work so that we can be nice and prepared and ready when we are looking for the job that we would like to go for. Now, to support you, Google have also created Google Careers Certificates. Now, this is in partnership with Coursera, and it's a really great way to actually learn, build confidence, develop skills, and become qualified in areas where there is demand and not enough supply. So some of those areas are data analysts, there will be project management, UX design, and also there's digital marketing and e-commerce. So you might want to, and project management. So you might want to have a look at that. The link is there on the screen. It's goo.gov/careercert UK. Now, this is a really nice way to pace yourself, to learn, to develop, and to find out what you might be good at and what might suit you. And certificates and skills along the way always add to our confidence as well as our skills and ability. And the practical nature of these courses make them really inviting. You have videos, you have text, and you have a way to communicate in the community. So I really welcome having a look at those. Now, I see a few of you have already started to say hello there in the chat. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Hamad. Many others I can see popping up there on the screen. So as we go through, we're going to have questions. So please do share them with Alison, and also there'll be breaks to ask me any questions too. So before we get any further, why are we here? So what are your career aspirations? If you could just share those in the chat box. There is a little bit of a delay between when I get that feedback from Alison and when you type it into the chat box. But we really would love to know what it is that you have an aspiration for. Do you know? Do you have an idea about what kind of career aspirations you might have at this point? Now, I've just seen Umer, is the certificate paid or free? So we have partnerships with a number of agencies such as the Department of Work and Education where you can get onto a scholarship, but otherwise there is a low charge, but there is a charge through Coursera to sign up for these certificates. But please do keep those conversations and questions coming through. So I'd really love to know those career aspirations that you have. So have a think. If you don't know now, perhaps you'll pick up on some ideas as we go through and you can share them with me a bit later on. So First, the objective of a CV. We need to really understand what it is we're doing on this CV. Why on earth are we creating one? We need to be a bit flexible because there isn't a one size necessarily fits all approach. So we need to think about the industry we're applying for, the job we're going for. But we're going to show you a few different templated approaches today that will lend themselves to various backgrounds and opportunities. Now, as regards these CVs, you will probably approach it different, for example, in a startup, but what we want to do is to take you through those next steps. So before we begin in the next steps of what we want to do with a CV, can you tell me the primary purpose? Why do we think that we actually bother to create a CV? What is the purpose of that CV? Please do share the information in the chat. So Joe says, at the moment, I'm trying to streamline my job search. I want to move into a role that helps people, but uses my current skill set, communications consulting and copywriting. I love that, Joe. A lovely skill set there. And you're wanting to streamline where you're going with that. So hopefully this session will help to give you that templated approach and a few ideas about how you can focus your goals. But it's great that you have such an idea really already about where you might want to head with this. I've also got some other things coming through. Hamad, digital marketing, e-commerce, currently doing the fundamentals of digital marketing by Google Digital Garage. Thank you, Hamad. And that I was going to mention later on, but it's a very key point. If you follow the link below this, you'll be able to find out that at julie.co/digital garage, we have a course called the Fundamentals of Digital Marketing. It's completely free. It's accredited by the IAB, which is the Institute of Advertising, and also the Open University in Google itself. So you will be able to do that qualification, and if successful, you will get a certificate at the end. So thanks, Hamad. I hope you're enjoying that qualification. Certainly a great thing to do if you enjoy the idea or concept of marketing. Vitania, do you need a subscription to get Google certificates from it? You can join up with a subscription. There is a charge, and you need to sign up to be able to enter that program. Yes, especially if you're doing outside of the UK. Umair, apply for a job online worldwide and enhance my skills. That's great, Umair. So you want to look for international work and you want to enhance your skills. So this is why you're here today. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. And I'll keep chatting to you in the breaks. So the primary purpose of the survey of a CV, as Maria says, is to introduce ourselves and the skills and experience we might have. Very succinct, brilliant answer and very well articulated. Thank you, Maria. Hamad, I believe the primary purpose of a CV is to tell yourself your experiences, education to the employer in the most concise manner. Again, another wonderful response. So it seems that we already have a good idea as to why we want to create that CV. We want to make it nice introduction to tell them about us. And what it actually is, it's the course of our lives. So the Cambridge English Dictionary actually describes it that way, and it says it's about your life experience. So it's not just the jobs you've had, but kind of why have you taken that approach? Why have you taken that role? Any kind of qualifications, previous jobs, and personal interests. But what is it reflecting about the course of your life, the direction of where you're going? And it's really nice if we can focus on a goal when we do our work. And this is where we're going to be looking at certain aspects of that today. So in terms of creating that very first contact with the employers, that's where our CV steps in. We want to make it nice and clear and visible and make them know that we are the one they are actually looking for. So we have to start with a good, succinct, and succinct is a word that may come up a few times, summary of our experience. So that's really highlighting the things we've done that relate to the job that we are going for. Now, this is important because whilst we'd like to think that managers spend ages looking at our individual CVs, they only have about 6 to 10 seconds on average to look at a CV, and they might get 50 in a pile and they're rushing between meetings. So the CV is important. And also, should your CV be read, only 2% of people that put in a CV get to interview. So we need to think carefully, therefore, on the elements of the CV to make us stand out nice and quickly, nice and succinctly, and focused as well. So the first thing we do is get that summary across about who we are, and we'll talk more about that as we go through. we then need to look at the goal. What are we focused towards doing? Can we describe that nice and neatly? And is it relevant to the job we're applying for? Because if the goal and the relevance go together, it looks much more attractive to an employer, because they feel that you do want that more than just doing a job. You're doing it because you feel that it suits your skill set and you would enjoy doing it, which is really important, because you start a job and you do it for a long time. So you want to do something that's relevant. And also, on the same theme, it's got to be authentic and honest. Let's be honest, if we say something that isn't really us and we start doing that job, or if we haven't had that experience, it's going to come across very quickly. So we need to think, what is it that we're good at? What is it that we want to do? And what is it that we can add value to in any particular job or career? And don't worry about having to know everything. The most important thing is that you have some natural skills and abilities and interests in that area. So we've talked about 3 things there. They're elements that we should include, but what other information do you think we should put into our CV then? So this is basically, there isn't a universally accepted template. As I mentioned right at the beginning, there are so many different ways and industries and types and styles of jobs out there. But every CV we do create should include all of these elements. So imagine you're a prospective employer, you have all those 50 CVs to read, you only have a few minutes. Who are you going to call to interview? It's going to be the people that can celebrate and clearly state the elements of these points. So we're going to go through each of those now. To begin with, it sounds really basic, but some CVs miss the key information. So you want to let them know your name and also where you are located. Now, there's more interest now in remote working, at-home working, so location is becoming more variable, more opportunities all over. So I would recommend sometimes to maybe just put your location as opposed to your full address, but that is a choice thing. Whereas if you're going for a local job, they might want to know specifically where you're located. But just putting the location, the city, the town, can be enough to attract that employer in and to let them know where you're based. Now, the most important thing is giving them as much contact information as you can so that they can get in touch. That could be a phone number, an email, and letting them know who you are and how to get hold of you. There's other important information to include on there that is a real opportunity to sell ourselves or promote our wares. And some of those, depending on the industry, might be a profile. So you might have built up a selection of creative works that you'd like to show in a profile. Maybe you've created a website, a blogging site, whatever it may be, photography site. This is a lovely way to showcase a kind of try before you buy to these employers and to show that you have a passion in this area and that you've been doing something with it. This is particularly useful if you are just starting out or going through a career transition to a new area. So have a think about what kind of profile matches what you're aiming for in terms of the job market. You also want to add in there important information such as, perhaps, if required, your date of birth or your visa. Now, these are not essential things unless the job states that they need to know that you are able to work in such a country. But if it's relevant, then do pop that on there as well. Now, there's no hard and fast rules with date of birth, but if you are just starting out, for example, you might want to let them know you are a junior, but also your CV will show that you are beginning too. And any certifications you may want to bring in as well. So you might want to mention there that you have done something specific in terms of a certificate, if right up front, if you are going for something that you are new to, for example, but studied in. The next thing after the basic information is that opening summary. So this is where it's sort of 2 to 3 sentences and you're letting them know about who you are, what you want to do and why you're the right person for the job. So here we might give a little bit of intel into our past experiences, whether they be paid or voluntary, and we want to let them know a little bit more about succinctly why we're applying for the role, what it is that motivates us, because that motivation is something that is very attractive to an employer. They like to see that, yes, that is something you're keen to do and that you're not going to be running away after they've trained you, but you actually want to stay there for for the long haul and you have a motivation to be in that line of work. So having that clear goal and motivation is an attractive thing to an employer, and it's often something we forget to put on our CVs. So showing that eagerness and that clear goal setting from the beginning will be useful for the employers and for you too. Next up is your work experience. So you want to include each piece of work experience particularly relevant to your job. Now, in most cases, we don't want to have more than a couple of sides to our CV in length. So we might want to pick out the work experience and detail in more depth the ones that are relevant to the job that we are applying for, as opposed to every job we may have ever done. And so there we need to include the most recent job at the top, and then we talk about the company, the dates we worked, and a detail of the role we did. And what's really important to include are our key achievements. So whether that would be numerical, perhaps we've increased sales, we may have reduced customer wait time, we might have had better customer feedback, whatever the results may be, it's nice to include that because it gives a kind of objective view of what we're capable of rather than just our personal ideas. It shows that we have got some distinctly objective skills that have been proven by our feedback in terms of results, etc. Or perhaps we may have won awards. The other thing to include are any key projects. There may have been a project that we were working on that directly relates to the job of application that we're applying for now. And some of those skills could show in the new role, despite it being perhaps a job we haven't done in the past. So it's very good to show key projects, both for experience, but also for crossing over of skills that we've learned as we've gone. And again, voluntary work is just as important because the great thing about voluntary work is it shows that you have an appetite, an interest in an area, and you're prepared so much to do it that you'll do it for free. So that often shows us a bit more about our purpose, why we're doing something and why we want to do something. Because if we're doing it from the heart rather than from the money side of things, that can be an attractive thing for employers, and it can make them realize that that is actually something you're likely to be good at because you're very interested in it. And some employers hire for attitude and train for skills. So seeing your attitude towards voluntary work and the areas that you're working in can be a benefit to an employer. The next thing to detail are our education and our achievements. Now here, that includes the dates of where we were studying, the most recent being at the top. Again, like the work experience, we want to have the most recent showing up front, the most freshest content. And then we want to put our academic achievements in there. So have we passed? Have we got a certain grade from a certain area? And again, any key projects that we might have worked on, because that can detail and show our areas of interest. If we've picked a certain topic title that's innovative, new, it could really show how we can add value to an organisation, and it shows the way we think and our abilities as well to study and to focus. So lots of these things are going to be useful for our CV as we go along. The next thing to think about are our skills and our strengths, and we'll go in a bit more depth into this. But the first thing is thinking about what qualities other people might describe you as having. So I quite like to do this, or used to do this with some staff, where they'd ask 3 members of people close to them, whether it be colleagues, friends, family, and people that they've studied with, one of each, for example, a friend, a colleague, and someone they studied with, to give them a bit of an idea of what their strengths are. This can be quite revealing and enlightening, and it can also help detail your CV for you. So once you get those qualities coming back in from those people, you can give them across in your CV confidently because they've been proven by other people. And if we are having that imposter syndrome that many of us have, or we don't really know what our skills are, this can add value. So do ask people what they are. We're then going to look at your soft and technical skills in a moment, but have a think at this point about what skills you might have, and this is where you'd want to add them in. Now, some of those skills might be based on soft skills, your personality. There's some different tests out there to find those bits out. So there's something called 16 personalities, 16 personalities, and that is a free test online that finds out about different personality types. And you can decide whether you agree or disagree with the feedback you get, but it's an interesting exercise. It can also detail the sort of careers you might want to head into. Myers-Briggs is another one that is quite popular. I don't know if you might have to pay for that one, but there's different personality tests that you could look into online to give you a bit more of an outline as to who you are, because sometimes we might not be that clear. And then you need to think about what these skills are in relation to the job that you're applying for. So everything has to tie back into that original job that you're going for, and it will make it easier in that small amount of time that we know those employee managers have to make a decision. So next, we're going to look at showcasing our skills. And I said there are different kinds of skills. So I already highlighted soft skills. So soft skills are those sort of things that are looking more at our natural strength, the things we're born with. And we'll go through those in a minute. The hard skills are a bit more learned. So they're like marketing skills, for example, Excel. And the digital skills are looking more at coding, social media, video editing. And all of these are very in-demand skills from today's market. And we will talk through a little bit about these skills now. So as mentioned, the soft skills. So these are things like leadership, teamwork, communication. How do we communicate with people through our skills? How do we lead a team? How do we project manage? All of those skills are considered soft skills because they're more what we're born with, more innate and more honed through experience, but they actually are there maybe from the beginning. They're something that are natural to us. Then we're going to look at the hard skills. So this is, for example, speaking another language. It could be accounting. So these are more of the ways of learning through education, through usage, through study. And that is where we develop that element of skill. And these are particularly important in the professions. So accounting, legal, languages, etc. And then we've got digital skills. So this is, as mentioned, the coding, the video editing, the social media. Maybe you've written a blog. Maybe you've edited something on your phone on a video. Maybe you have played around with some code. There's lots of things we might do without even realizing that add to our skill set and can be shown through, again, hobbies, internships, and also through work experience. So here's a bit of an outline of some example skills that you might want to include in your CV, but there are many, many more. So the blue is more of the technical skills, and looking at the darker ones, they are more of the soft skills. So teamwork, project management, leadership, networking, presentation, all brilliant skills, but they are more innate. And then the blue, HTML, CSS, video editing, graphic design, coding and programming. Do any of these sound like you? If they do, add them to your CV if they're relevant to the job you're applying for. But have a think about what skills in all those three areas you can bring to an employer and that suit you best. Because the most important thing about CVs is being true to yourself. Because if you're really true to yourself and you really understand yourself, the benefits of that take you much further in your career right the way through. Because if you know yourself, they can trust in that. They can add to that and you can grow from that. So it's certainly worth having a good think about these aspects. If you are not yet sure about the kind of career that you want to be in or where you want to focus your goals, we do have a career goals session, and that is very much worth having a look at. And again, follow the link below. So the next thing is about making that nice and clearly defined as regards your strengths. So we talked about speaking to a few people, finding what you're good at. The other thing that might help you think about what you're good at is what do you do without pressure? What do you do out of natural interest? What do you look up? What do you study? What do you find? What do you do most of, either for hobby or for work or in study? What are you drawn to? All of these things are likely to be taking you closer to your strengths. And it also helps you to stand out, because if you find out from your friends, family, colleagues, and also those people you study with, what they think of you, you might find that that aligns well with what you'd like to do. So have a little think about that, brainstorm, what are you good at? Go through the 3 elements of skill sets as well that you might want to think about, and ask around and find out what it is that they think and what you do most of. You also want to show that visibility of strength. So if you're good at something, the only way the world will know is if you make it known to the world. So there are ways now that we can publicly share our work online through video, through blogs, through messages, and this is all beneficial, and we'll talk about why that is a bit later on. So these are some example strengths, and these are words talking more about our strengths as characteristics, as humans, as personalities. And here we've got enthusiastic, we've got the core keywords such as self-motivated, analytical, dependable, and you'll probably get some of these answers when you ask around about what your strengths are. So don't forget to include that on your CV. So the next thing we need to do, what our CV has to do, is showcase our experience in a really nice way. So how can we best do that? So we're going to take a few minutes now to look at this in a little bit more depth. So first of all, what does constitute experience? So we mentioned a few different things, didn't we? Voluntary work, internships, we can do part-time work, even certificates. So for example, the Google Career Certificates, it's quite practically applied as well as theoretical. So there's lots that we can do nowadays to really add to our skill sets. Lots of free courses like FutureLearn, Udemy, Coursera, and these are ways that we can enhance and develop upon our initial skill set. It also shows a drive to want to do that and an understanding if we pass. So all of these things are really valuable to an employer. And mention things that we do just without even thinking about it, something we're passionate about, our hobbies, our extracurricular activities. They can be highlights and insights into what we are going to be good at ultimately. But what we don't want to do is include any old thing. We want to include things that are really directly relevant to the job we're going for. So if we enjoy playing piano, it may not always be relevant to put it on the CV. However, if you're applying for a job in the music industry as a marketing executive, for example, it might be great to know that you can play an instrument. So think about that aspect as well, rather than listing lots and lots of hobbies. Think about directly, how it might relate to the kind of job you're going for. But also, it may just be a conversation starter with someone that you're applying for. So people need to know 2 things: what you're interested in and how you're interesting. So you've got to listen and learn from them as you go into the interview stage, but show what your interests are and why that's interesting and why that makes you different is always good too. So the next thing to do is to reflect. Let's look up to date on where we are with our experience. So what did you do and how could you condense that information down into a short few sentences, for example, for each role? And what did you achieve? What were those achievements? As I mentioned, is there an impact that you made? Did you change the structure of a team? Did you troubleshoot a problem? Did you resolve an issue that others were struggling to do? Did you get some feedback? It's always nice to have objective statements of achievement, whether that be numerical, whether that be somebody else's feedback, to show what you achieved in that role. Because that will be a way for people to trust that it's not just your opinion. And the most important is, how does it relate to this role that you're going for now? What kind of value is it adding? So think about all those elements when you are trying to focus on your experience to date when applying for a job. The next is the formatting. So as mentioned, one size does not fit all. Ideally, we won't want to go past 2 pages. Occasionally that may be slightly different, but that is the average and common rule. But the layouts will change, and that's because we want to draw people to different aspects of our experience based on the kind of profession, the job of application, and also our strengths as well. So looking at the formats here, there's a couple of varieties. There's ones that focus more, for example, on the experience, and the other one on key skills. So think about the role of application and what does it require. If it's a profession, for example, like an accountant, it's going to be more important to put your education up front. If it's more about looking at your experience, hands-on experience, then that's where you want to highlight that element. So do think about which kind of template will work for you. Now, there's different layouts, and here are a couple on screen, and I'm really interested to see if you think number 1 or number 2 might be most valuable for an employer. Remember, they have very short periods of time. They want to take things in very quickly and easily. So looking at these two in front of us, we've got Fatima and we've got Harry. Now, ideally, we don't tend to, at least in the UK, in the majority, if not all roles, we don't tend to put a photograph on there. For one, we want to be just taken on our merit rather than our appearance. And so it's worth maybe not putting a photograph in there. The second one is also a little bit too detailed around the edges. It's taking our eye away from the actual substance, which is the content written inside it, and we are not really paying attention maybe to the key things that we need to. So that may not be a successful CV for us. The first one, however, Fatima, has a lot more white space. It's nice and clearly laid out. We'd recommend an Arial of 12 to 14 font is quite a nice readable style. This isn't Arial, but that is a nice readable font. And having that job title, the details, all bulleted. So the bullet points, we need to be able to scan. Remember, however we work now, we've got low attention spans. We need to be able to scan that information really quickly. So make it scannable, make it easy to read, and have clear sections as you go through. And again, black text on white is useful. And I like the fact they've got the LinkedIn there and the location, and it makes it nice and easy to read. You want to maximize your impact. So this is about clarity. So we talked about summarizing a few times now, but keeping those bullet points in there and keeping simple language. So jargon just loses a lot of people. And unfortunately, that can turn people away. So keeping it nice and simple and being honest about our starting point. You know, for example, if we're transitioning into a new role or we're just starting out, we're not going to be expected to have had strategic leadership experience in that area. So talking more broadly about our skills in other ways can be a good way to celebrate what we've done without over embellishing, overselling what we've done. So, for example, I led a team of people at university on a project we were working on, etc., rather than I had a strategic leadership vision, those sort of words. So it's just about using the correct language to fit your circumstance and experience. And of course, always get more than one opinion, because it's great to have new eyes over the subject, particularly if it's being sent to multiple employers. Now, I'm just going on to questions, and I know that Alison's been doing an amazing job, as always, there in the chat. Thank you, Alison. And I'm just seeing a couple of questions here. So we've mentioned already about Hamad and Joe. So we've already discussed those, but Umair, should one put all information in a CV or only relevant to the job? Thank you. That's a brilliant question. So you do want to cover the dates of your CV, but what you don't want to do is to go into depth for each of the jobs you've done. You do need to explain the course of your life, but you want to keep it succinct for those areas that are not relevant. And actually going quite far back, we might not need to include, if it's a long CV of however many years, we might not need to include our earlier experience if it's not going to add value to the role we're going. It's not dishonest. We're saying we have been doing these jobs over this period of time from that date to that date, but we maybe don't need to go that far back if it's not adding value to the employer to know that information. So it's, yes, you're right, Amir, it's about being relevant to the job, but not going into too much depth on the bits that are not relevant, if that does make sense. Hamad, is using a template advisable or starting from scratch? Because of ATS, that does not read templates. So ATS is something that I haven't got a lot of experience in ATS, but when it comes to templates, it's important to create those 5 key elements that we talked about in terms of work experience, your content, your contact information. And ATS does look at, for example, keywords. So you do need to think about your skills. But again, as long as you're saying the right things in terms of what you want to do, what you have done, where you're going, then it doesn't matter whether it's run through software or human eyes, it's going to pick up that that's the trend, that that's really what's important to you. So I think the most important thing is getting those 5 elements in there and making that clear. And Sarah, is it best to put the education at the top if for entry level positions? Thank you, Sarah. So if you're applying, say, for accountancy as a junior and you've just done an accountancy exam, that will be really useful. But if you're doing something that is more about skills as well as qualifications, you may choose to align both the education and the skills at an equalish level. I hope that does help. So thanks for your questions. Keep them coming in and we'll try and answer them as we go. So the next is about a cover letter. Now, some people, or many, don't seem to attach cover letters to their CVs anymore. And it is an important thing to have for many employers. In fact, 40% of recruiters say that if there isn't a cover letter, then they will not be too impressed. In fact, 45% will reject those CVs that don't have them. So a cover letter gives an opportunity to really show maybe our aptitude, our personality, our attitude for something. And that can go far and beyond. And it's nice and succinct, and it can go far and beyond just a simple CV. So it's a chance to really sell yourself into the employer, to let them know in more detail about what you've done. Because again, we've got a short CV of a couple of sides. So we might want to bring that to life in our personality, our expression, and why and how we did those things. So that could be useful to consider. Now, Google have put together as a team, having seen many CVs, what the key base areas are that basically create that cover letter. And these are the building blocks that they uncovered that you'd want to include when creating your cover letter. So the first is about the introduction. Now, this is important, actually. We might not consider it. It might be a throwaway thing, but it shows the culture of the company and you, and it might show a match or not, or a mismatch. So you could have hi, which is a bit more informal. You might have hello, which is friendly, but not too old-fashioned. Or you might have the classic dear. So it really does depend on you, your nature, the organization that you're applying for. And that really shows the style of communicating that you feel comfortable with. And that would, as also, it depends how well you know, if you know, the hiring manager, because a lot of people network to find jobs as well. So if you've already met, that could be a hello or a hi. Whereas if it's a hiring manager, it could be a dear, for example. But it does, again, depend on the kind of culture of the organisation, which you'll be able to pick up from the website or experience of either an internship, voluntary work, or finding out through your network. So think about how you introduce yourself and think about the kind of job you're applying for. So it's important to think about that job that you're applying for, how you heard about it and why you're interested. Oftentimes when people applied to work with me in the past, I found it very interesting if they'd gone out of their way to find out about me. They'd either found out by word of mouth or they'd looked up our website, and that would tell me more, indicating about how interested they are in what we're doing. So that can add value, because basically the employer really wants to know that you have an interest. Remember, being interested and interesting. And if you're interested in them, they're more likely to find you interesting. So the next thing is to summarize yourself. So what is it that is important to you? Be honest about this. This is looking at your strengths again that we've already highlighted, what you're good at, and also what you enjoy. And don't forget that when you get that feedback from people, you can make that into a few sentences that nicely summarize your strengths, but also your skills. So you can pop in there your experience in those sentences very quickly to let them know what it is that you are particularly expert or find yourself to be most expert in or enjoy. The next thing is Looking at the job description. So the job description is what we're there to do. We're actually solving a problem for an organization, and they want us to be the solution. And for each thing that they write in that job description, we need to show that we have the skills, ability, or experience to resolve that problem, and that we will do it in the right manner, the right nature, the right character. So it's important to look at that job description and highlight any of the key words that they're saying. For example, if they've got a busy environment, we need to show how we work under pressure. So highlight any of the areas that they have in terms of problems and where we can show that we could have impact or have had impact in those areas. Think about the language you use. So this is getting the language right for the company, easy, jargon-free and simple to read, so that they know that you're matching their requirements. And also show a bit of interest and appetite in the industry that you're working within. If you're keeping up to date on the news already, then the chances are you'll be a current member of the team, and they would like someone to be current and to know about their industry and to have an interest and flavour in it, because that will mean that you have an idea of it and want to learn more. And if you've got a zest for knowledge in that space, they will not feel that they have to hold your hand through it, that you're going to do that yourself and look into it. So have a think about how you can show your current understanding of that job or market that you're working for or wanting to work in. And then again, thinking about the work and personal experiences that you have that back up that job application to show that you can be the solution to those problems through what you've already done. Then this is optional, but it's really nice to include these where relevant to the particular job description. So if you have done certificates and it shows willing, interest, desire, and action in that area, as well as results, then it's going to really add value. So if you're going for a marketing role and you've done the Google certificate, it's likely to show interest to the employer that you already know something, have an interest, and have applied yourself and can understand it. So that's going to be really valuable in terms of your skills. Volunteering. Have you done anything similar in the past? Is there anything you can do to fill the gaps if you haven't yet already? Languages. Are there languages that you can speak? You might forget that you have a second language, or you might not think it's relevant, but it can be very useful to a role as well. Skills. We talked about the 3 areas of skills. What skills relate again to that job description you're applying for, and how can you refer to those? What ones do you want to share most importantly? And again, where relevant, hobbies and interests. And if you do have a website, which is a great way to showcase your personal brand, and a session I'd recommend you going to is building your personal brand, again through the link below. You can learn how to show yourself online, show your merits, your experiences, and what you're actually going for, because we are arguably all a personal brand these days, and we need to stand out in a crowded market. So think about how you can showcase you as a person, because we're all individual and we all have something unique to offer to the job market. So think what that is for you. So the sign off we often take for granted, but it's a really nice way to show humility, gratitude, and thanks for the opportunity to be considered. As we know, they're busy people and they have lots and lots of CVs. So let them know that you do appreciate their time and that you want to be considered and why it matters to you. So here's an example answer for you on screen, and think about the ones that are going to work best for you, but let them know. If they need to know any more information, they can get in touch, and that you appreciated their time and attention today, for example. You also want to tailor your application to the role. So I talked a bit about adding value in terms of your own portfolio, your own experiences that you can bring to life, perhaps through a website, through content that you are creating in a video, etc., etc. And this is a way to showcase those samples of your work that they may otherwise not know about. And that could be a real game changer. If you've created something really innovative, they might not know that you've got those skills. So have a think about how you could bring those skills to life, and particularly if it's a hobby, sometimes that can, through learning and doing and playfulness, we can come to lots of content that could be useful to the workplace as well. It can also show your abilities in action. So it's the best possible light to reflect what you've done and how you did it. And then think about how the elements of the portfolio can present to the job of application that you're going for. So again, how is it relevant particularly to this role? So include those skills, those qualifications that we mentioned that are going to be tailored to that specific position. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we will have to write a new cover letter for each job of application. So it will be specifically tailored in each case to what we are applying for. Remember to start strong. So let's look at each section here and see what we can add. So for example, if we are wanting to go to a sales advisor role from a customer assistant role, we can show that, dear Mrs. Webb, I'm currently a customer assistant currently employed by Smarks. I'd like to apply for the sales advisor role at Shirts and Skirts. I heard about the job position advertised through jobmarket.com. Now, what that does tell us very quickly is they've already got customer experience, which is great. So that's a transferable skill. They've probably not had sales experience, so that they can show by learning how to be with customers could be a skill they could certainly use or highlight or work on in the next role. And showing where they found out about the job means they've been proactive in looking for work. So these are the things that we might want to start with. The next section is about the summary. So as an example, we might want to think about a few things that make us special. And looking at this selling of abilities, as it were, on screen, we can see how people might describe themselves. So what I particularly like about the way that the summary is written here is it says, I've been praised for the warm manner in which I deal with customers. So we know that it's important to know how to deal with customers for the job that she's applying for, but we don't know the style yet. So being told I am this, I am that may have a certain element of interest, but what is more attractive is if you've been praised for it, for example. So the objective language of someone else saying it gives more validation to what we've done and a bit more humility as well. So it's quite nice to say, I've been praised for the warm manner in which I deal with customers. And also, I'm a friendly, helpful, patient team member. So you can feel in the language, in the words, in the detail there, her personality as well as her experience. And that gives us a bit more reassurance that she might be the right person there for the job. And then she's solving their problem because she says she can cope well under stress and that she's already dealing with a range of customers on a daily basis. So what that tells us is that she is able to cope in this role. And that's really important because their problem is they're busy. They need someone who can hit the ground running. And it sounds like she might be able to do that. The next bit is the relevant achievements. So here we can see that they've done some voluntary work. So that tells us that they're prepared to put themselves out there in that space. And they've also done a short part-time course in counselling. So what that tells us is their listening skills have been proven because they have applied themselves to a course of study that puts the person first. And also the volunteering in organising local activities shows that they are people-focused again and perhaps quite good at organising. So useful skills again for the role of a sales advisor. And as she signs off, it says, I'm really honoured to be considered for this position and let me know if you want any information about me. So that's a nice sparkle sign off because it's showing that they're honoured, they're grateful and they're appreciative as well. So all really important. Now we've just got to pause for questions again. So I think we've got Sumaya. Apologies if I'm not pronouncing these lovely names properly. But if you are writing a CV to apply for college applications, what would you need to do differently from a job-seeking CV? So today we are more tailoring it to the job market as such. So if you're applying for a college application, you still probably want to see what their interests are in terms of why you're applying, what skills you have that you can bring, or just nature. Your soft skills will be important here. And also your work experience and voluntary work that has made you want to maybe try this course out. What is it that sparked that interest in the course for you? Just be very honest and share that with them. Joe, where can we find helpful CV templates? Thank you, Joe. Great question. Well, Google have on Google Docs some templates for CVs, and there will be many others, say on Microsoft, etc., where you can find different templates and layouts. Canva is also canva.com is a nice place for templates for CVs as well. So I hope that helps, Joe. Thank you. And keep those questions coming through. So finally, we're going to get you ready now for the job search so that you are there at the front of minds for those people that are seeking to hire. So what are those tools we can do to help develop our values and grow into that career? So the first thing is actually thinking about the content that we share online. We all share things these days. Many of us are active on social media, and I'll talk about why that's important in a moment. But the content we share tells people our interests, our skills, and what we enjoy, but it also tells them who we are as a character. And companies don't just hire skills, they hire people. So they're looking for you to match the culture of the organization. So think about the kind of things and messages you put out there in how you conduct yourself online. And this is called the digital footprint. Again, I'd like to draw you back to the idea of going to that other hour session on building your personal brand online, because that will detail a bit more about how you can work best towards your creating a digital footprint. But your digital footprint does include everything from the content you share, so that's photos, videos, posts, whatever you do, pages you follow, so the businesses or sites you engage with will indicate your interests and your passions. And also the posts that you are tagged in. Often we can forget that people tag us in things, and perhaps we may or may not want those tagged in for certain reasons. So have a look at your settings on the social media spaces and see if you're comfortable with those settings and what it says about you in terms of the information that others share, as well as what you share about yourself. And this is why we need to think about our digital footprint, because 90%, that's a huge amount of recruiters will now look to social media to learn about your presence online. So it's a really big factor in the recruiting process. And in fact, where you might think LinkedIn is the main place to go, 75% look for the most popular candidate selection platform on Facebook. So 75% on Facebook, 57% on Twitter, and it's only 38% on LinkedIn. So the looking for selecting of candidates tends to be in those places. So think about how and what they might learn about you. Do a quick Google of yourself, find out the kind of information you've been putting out there, and maybe revise your social media to reflect what you want it to say about you and your brand, because as I say, we all are a brand. And after employee referrals and company websites, social media is actually the third most important tool. So it's a very important tool to get known, but this is a real opportunity to let people know who we are a bit more three-dimensionally than a 2D CV. We can bring to life who we are, our nature, our personalities, our beliefs, our values, which are all key in why we might want to work for somebody and who we might want to work for. And then a third of those do actually recruit through social media. So that is a massive amount of people that will find you through those channels. So getting it right will certainly add value to your career prospects. Next, I talked about personal branding. Go to that course and have a look at these sections in more detail when you sit through the hour. But as mentioned, 90% will look at social media. So we need to think about the platforms that we're engaging with. We mentioned the top ones. Are we needing to be present on others? Do we need to stand out in a different way? Are we talking in the communities enough? For example, on LinkedIn in the groups, are we letting people know what our strengths are, what our interests are? Sometimes a point of view and an opinion and a value can be just as important as the role that you're going for. So share your discussions in the network. Also, share engaging content. Don't be shy to share your thoughts, your creativity, your portfolio, your experiences, any testimonials, any feedback that you're getting through either study, work, or otherwise. There is a whole world of possibilities out there now, so just dream big. Really, you don't need to think small anymore, because the goals and plans you have are all about how you imagine them and what the steps you are to make towards them. And if you can be really focused, that's where the results tend to happen. You might want it to happen a year, it might take longer, but each step is taking you towards that goal, and being really razor sharp will help you in achieving that. So the career goals session will help refine that if you're not yet sure. Identify the trends. So we are now working within the fourth industrial revolution, where we've got all kinds of changes to the world of work, which is exciting. Opportunities to learn, develop in the digital space. You'll probably seen the facial recognition ID, 3D printing, all sorts of different new innovations coming up, and AI, or artificial intelligence, that can give us new ways of working, new opportunities, new things to learn and discover and to make money. So have a look at those trends. And I've talked about the careers careers certificates, how we can be at the top end of those trends and be there where the demand is, and look at those research roles and requirements and how you can fulfill them through doing courses and practice and study in that area, as well as work experience. So don't think small. You don't have to. You can always dream big and then work backwards from there. Set a goal for yourself and start moving step by step and see what works for you. So next question is, what tools can you use to look for jobs? Now, you might in the chat function now want to share the tools that you currently use to look for jobs, and that would be great. We might have a delay, so I'll pick those up a bit later if you want to share them. But there's so many tools out there. So for example, search engines, we've got Google, we've got Bing, we've got Yahoo, and all of those individually bring nice and neatly all the jobs and details into one place for you, which makes it nice and easy to organise. The job boards, well, things such as Indeed, Reed, Total Jobs, and other recruitment channels also share jobs that they have available with those strong relationships that they have with organisations. And don't underestimate those professional networks. A huge amount of referrals and opportunities come through networking. So joining networks or existing networks and adding to them, talking to people, these can really open doors because they get to know you. And if you're like-minded, that can really add to the opportunity of finding the person for the job. So this is a way to look at how we discover the jobs on search. So on search, we can actually choose really neatly now between category, job title, date posted, so we can see how fresh and recent it is, the company type, so we can see if it's the right industry for us, the employer or organisation that's hiring, so we can find out more information if we want to go into their website, and we'll be able to see the sectors, and so quickly we can filter around what is best for us. And let's not forget the key points here and the key information. So first, we need to think about those daily tasks and responsibilities that we are being asked for in the job and find out what's really expected day in, day out. This is a useful thing to do because if you value it, then that will come across and you'll be able to share examples. And also looking at the key skills and experience required. Make sure you are the suitable person for the role. You don't have to have 100% of the skills to apply for a job. Some apply with 60%, for example, and are still successful. But how much and to what extent and how you can reflect those other skills is going to be important. And then looking at how you're committed to developing those skills in other ways through your personal development channels. We've talked about those courses, FutureLearn, Coursera, other online courses, Udemy, and the likes that we can develop ourselves for free, actually, in most cases. And then consider what is important regarding salary and location. Now we're in the hybrid situation. We can work perhaps from home more. We might have more opportunity. So it will give us a chance to consider that too. We can actually search by work from home, I believe, as well now. The next is values. So there is a difference between goals, and goals are important. That's where we want to end up. They're kind of the tick list about the goal, the thing we want to get in the end in terms of accomplishments. But values are what keep us moving in that desired direction. So values are really what drives us forward, what motivates us, what keeps us going. And sometimes we can think about maybe it's working with community, it's helping people, it's whatever those values are that matter to us, that will keep us from being unbreakable in that job market, in that industry, and resilient to any challenges. So think carefully about what your values might be and how that can add value too. But of course, we need to plan. If we don't plan for success, we were more likely to fail. So this is a nice, smart goal, which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Now, you might want to replicate this for your own career goals and your own dreams and passions for what you're wanting to achieve in your careers. And specific here, we've got, I want to work as a finance manager at a startup. So that's the goal. That's the long-term vision of this person. Measurable, well, if they get a job, then they feel that that's a proven achievement along the way. And is it achievable? Is there anywhere close to that step yet? Well, yes, they are now working as a finance intern, so they've got some experience. Realistic, they do have the knowledge and skills from that. And time-bound, they're going to give it a realistic time of 2 years. So make your own SMART goals. Write that down tonight. I'd really love you to take one action from this, and that is to make a SMART goal and think about the next year in mind. Please do take note of that. Now that brings us to the end of today's session, and I believe, thank you very much, Alison, who is a superstar, and I'm sure you'll agree has been answering all your questions in the chat, and I know you've been keeping her busy, and thank you all very much for your time and attention today. I'd really love you to share in the feedback what you found useful today and how it was of value, and please also do note down the goo.gall/digital garage feedback to share any points and thoughts. But please do let us know, how was this session for you today? And do also look at your next steps. So your next steps from here are, you can go to the careers goals session, build a personal brand. We also have presenting tips as well. So you might want to see a few of those to develop yourself for the career market and the business world. Don't forget those all-important career certificates with Google, goo.gall/career cert UK. Go to that link and find out more information. If you're here in the UK, there's a number of partners where you can arrange a sponsorship for free if you're going through the partnerships. Otherwise, there is just a very low price to get involved in that. And what's left to say is thank you so much to each and every one of you for your time today. And I wish you every bit of luck and success and rewarding careers. Thank you, and do share again your thoughts so that we can just make a better job every single time. And thank you and goodbye. I've been Annie, and Alison has been helping you today. Bye-bye.